There's the old African proverb that goes something like, the young man who is ignored by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. And you have this scenario where a lot of, again, the kind of the entitled class, the Wall Street Journal, class, or some of the older classes, they want to look at the young people and say, well, you're just going to figure it out, and you're bad and dumb for not getting it done. And again, like, I'm not justifying any dropping out, not participating, not trying, or getting revolutionary, any of those things. But you have to understand these things happen for a reason. Like, the French Revolution was horrific, but it happened in part because the king really was making bad decisions. The Russian Revolution was an absolute nightmare, but it did happen because the czar was not doing a good job and was ignoring the needs of the people. Like, ultimately, you can't just assume that society is this engine that just runs on its own and people can choose to succeed in it or not. You have to recognize that ultimately, God forgive me here, but you live in a society. Like, you ultimately do have to care about the people next to you. You have to care about involving the people next to you. You have to, the systems you're operating have to benefit most of the people involved, because if they don't, there will eventually come a time where everyone either checks out or decides that they don't want to play this game anymore, and whatever is better than what they have now. Now, they're usually wrong about that. Like I said, the French Revolution was worse. The Russian Revolution was much worse. But there does come a point where people are willing to take that chance because the system has become so sclerotic, so locked in, so disadvantageous to them that they have a hard time imagining the worst, even if it really is out there and they really will involve them. And so you can't just sit there and say, well, you're going to figure it out. You got to figure it out. Yes, that is good advice to the individual. Again, I will, if any one person comes to me and says, how do I improve my life? Work harder. Make sure, you're taking care of yourself. You're increasing your skill set. You're putting your time in. You're making wise financial decisions. You're learning about investments. You're learning about, I'm going to give them all of that individual advice. But when we're talking to entire generations or entire classes of people, there has to be a way that these things benefit everyone. You can't keep running the entire economy for boomers and the laptop class. You can't keep shipping, the average person's job overseas and tell them to just learn to code. There has to be a buy-in, or eventually people will get violent or apathetic. And you can't be angry or surprised when that ultimately happens. We're looking at scenarios, as you pointed out, where we're adjusting taxes to help the people who have already received the most. I mean, down here in Florida, we're talking about getting rid of property tax. Let me tell you, I hate property tax. I can't wait to not pay property tax. But I'm also aware that most of the people in Florida who own properties are old. Like, they're older generations. And so when you get rid of the property tax, you don't just stop paying taxes. The money comes from somewhere. So it's not coming from the older people who own their homes. Where does it come from? Well, it's going to come from the younger people. It's going to be a consumption tax of some kind, or it's going to be some other tax that's going to disproportionately hit younger generations. And as much as I hate paying property tax, I have to care about the people that come after me. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm not just here to like spend every dollar before the lights go out. That's not the purpose of my life. And we have to get back to a mentality where we're running the country for the interests of the entire nation, not just for a globalist elite that's going to profit off this stuff, or from a retirement class that's ultimately going to be able to survive off of the largesse of previous generations and not have to deal with the consequences. We've got to care. Like, we have to lower our time preference. We have to think about how we can benefit the entire society. And that means that, some people might take a hit. It means that they might not have the cheapest labor. It means they might have to, pay the taxes that everybody else pays. Like, you might not just get to check out on those responsibilities, and you have to be okay with every single thing not benefiting you. And again, I don't want to just preach to the boomers. It's not just there are plenty of great, boomers. My parents are, generous, kind people who, have not taken that route. It's not just saying, oh, everyone in this age bracket is a problem. It's, like I said, it's also the neoliberal set. It's the globalist set. It's the laptop class. who are running economies just for their benefit. But we have to see something change. We have to stop getting these Wall Street Journal articles, because I commented under this and in the Twitter, and it ratioed them quite savagely. But it's like, when Gen Z comes to roast you in the street and eat you, I will not feel bad for you. You will have earned every bit of it. When you become the rotisserie chicken, you will have earned exactly what you got. And I just don't think these people understand. They think, oh, it can't happen in America. It can't happen in America. Oh, it can absolutely happen in America. And you guys really have to get a hold of your just insane greed and your dismissal of everyone else's problems. I go ahead and start wrapping this up, but I guess the last thing I'll say before I throw it back to you is, the affordability issue is going to be the issue. It just is. Like, that and immigration are going to be 1 and 2 for probably the next 10 years at least. And so any Republican administration, any Trump administration, any let's hope JD Vance administration, they're going to have to address this problem. You've got to figure out a way to make a serious impact on this problem. If you do not, you're going to lose power. You're just going to lose power, and you can sell everything else, right? And we had Pam Bondi out there saying, oh, Dow is above this point, so I don't want to hear about any other issues. Okay, but most people aren't benefiting from the Dow being up, and they're seeing you drop the ball on things like Jeffrey Epstein. So the things that you're even using to placate them don't work for them, because, oh, we have a good economy. A good economy for who? Not for the average worker. You mean a good economy for people like you, people who don't do real jobs, who don't have to pay real bills, who would be fine no matter what. They're seeing their stock prices go up. They're seeing their assets inflate. But that's not helping the people who have to buy homes, who are watching those assets deflate and then can't buy them. These are just mentality shifts that have to occur for us to have a political future as conservatives, as right-wingers. And by the way, it's also just the moral thing to do. You're supposed to be a conservative. You're supposed to be right-wing. You're supposed to recognize the importance of generations and family, and you're doing everything to destroy the possibility of those things continuing. So I'll just give you the last word on that, Prudentialist.
Yeah, sure. In 2002, Pat Buchanan wrote The Death of the West. And it's very much, Pam Bondi during that hearing, mentioned the Dow hitting, 50,000. And on that issue, Pat Buchanan wrote this: with the Democratic Party so beholden to feminism that it cannot even oppose partial birth abortions, and the GOP enthralled to a libertarian ideology and controlled by corporate interests, the call of the gods of the marketplace for more women workers prevails over the command of God to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. Many conservatives have succumbed to the heresy of economism, a mirror Marxism that holds that man is an economic animal and that free trade and free markets are the path to peace, prosperity, and happiness, that if we can only get the marginal tax rates right and the capital gains tax abolished, paradise, the Dow at 36,000, is at hand. But when the income tax rate for the wealthiest was above 90% in the 1950s, America, by every moral and social indicator, was a better country. He wrote this, over 20 years ago, and it still, I think, rings rather true to this day, that it's very clear that interests that are far more powerful and wealthier than us are beholden to the country, that every nation on earth feels like America is a dumping ground and a refuse for its citizens and its immigrants to come here and to, of course, lessen workers and wages. I was at my bachelor party dinner a couple of days ago, and more or less about all of the table, had to kind of take a sip of their drink to not say anything when the discussion about our jobs came up, because one of the guys there talks about how someone that he works with rather closely at his own office, his job is to look for ways in which to offshore and to find call center work that is not inside the United States. And, I'm very glad that we moved on from that discussion quickly, because after dinner, quite a few of us were, talking outside the restaurant. It's I hope I never find that guy, because I don't think he would walk away, without going to the hospital or something. And, when you're hearing that from people that are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, the nativist sentiment that is very, I think, natural, and it is the right inclination for Americans to have, is to be concerned about their nation first, to put America first, economically, socially, morally, religiously. When we live in a society where that's not really taking place, and that the younger people have been alienated and deracinated from their heritage by mass immigration and cultures that are not their own. And while at the same time being, subject to political and economic illiteracy that has only allowed them to engage in a system of subscription services writ large, as well as, basically gambling, either literally gambling over college and national football or gambling with the stock market or with crypto, that you have more or less literally have, truly, decided to castrate the geldings and bid them to be fruitful, at least in this economic sense. And again, like you had said, those issues, immigration, the economy, and affordability will be the issues going forward. And I can guarantee you as a prediction right now, later this year in 2026, affordability will be front and center. The left will argue, very moderately on their rhetoric about economic populism, but they will vote to the left of Mao every time if they get into office. While at the same time, Republicans will try and do the same and focus on immigration and those issues like that. And don't get me wrong, the New York Times was right that Donald Trump has an answer to everything, and that issue is immigration. That one has to be solved first. In order for any political project on the right to succeed, there are 4 reinstitutionalizations that need to happen. Remigration, reenchantment, re-evangelization, and reinstauration. If you're not willing to establish all 4 of those things where Americans feel the wonder and the beauty of what God has given them on this country, given them the faith to believe that they can leave something to go on, remigrate and patriotically send and repatriate millions of people who shouldn't be here to begin with back to their respective countries of origin, and at the same time reinstall some law and order and some former greatness that has been in decline for so many years. If those 4 things aren't put in place for any political project, then we're going to see a million more articles about rotisserie chickens at the same rate that we're going to see millions of more foreigners eat the cats and dogs off of our streets.
Hey guys, if you've been watching this show for a while, then you know that around here we encourage something that conservatives usually don't do. Winning. If you like what I'm doing here and you want to keep it going, then head over to Blaze TV. They have the behind-the-scenes content, exclusives, and documentaries that you're just not going to see anywhere else. So go to blazetv.com/Oren and subscribe today. The promo code is AURON and you'll save $20 right now off the annual plan.